Hey everyone, we are going to work through exercise 11-1 of Murach's Visual Basic 2015. This is create a customer maintenance application that uses classes. And the book on page 380 gives you the code for the product maintenance application. So a lot of this is going to be very similar, except we're doing this for customers and not products. So step one is to open the application and just review these files that are given in the starter files. So we have customer maintenance. We're going to have a list of customers here. If we click on add, it's going to open this window. We fill this out. Click on save. It writes it back to this list. If we click on a customer and hit delete, it removes it from the list. If we hit exit, it exits out. We also have this customer db.vb file, and this is like a fake database. It's actually using XML, which for my class we'll get to towards the end of the semester. But it's important for my class that use the starter files I gave you, because I did make a change to this, so it's going to work everywhere. And then we have the validator, which is a class that we can use again and again. You've seen these functions, is within range or is present, is decimal. We've been using these. Is valid email is a new one that we're going to be using today to make sure that the user enters a valid email address for the customer. All right, that was step one. Step two, add a class named customer to this project. So on customer maintenance, I can right click and I can hit add. I can choose class, I can choose new item, and then choose class. I'm going to do it, I think I'll do it this way, see what this does. Okay, and I'm going to name this customer.vb is the name of my customer class. Hit add, gives me a new class. You see it's already added right here. And then we need to add the properties, method, and constructors that are shown in the table below, which is on page 395 in your assignment. Implement the properties using the standard syntax. All right, so just kind of dive right into this. So the properties that we need, we're going to make these we need first name, last name, and email. And then we need to actually code the get and set for these properties. So I'm going to do public property first name as string. Now remember, with Visual Studio, as soon as I type get, it'll fill out the rest of this for me. So when I want to get the first name, I'm going to return m underscore first name. And when I want to set it, I'm going to set m underscore first name is equal to the value. Value in this case is what comes in. So this might seem a little silly and redundant, but remember that when we get it, we might take first name and do something with it, or when we set it, we might do something to the value before we set it. So that's why it seems a little redundant here. I'm going to do the same thing for last name. Oops, and I just noticed that. I can make capitalization the same here. And finally, email. So I have my properties coded. We then need a function called getDisplayText. And what this is going to return is a string that is the person's first name, a space, last name, comma, space, email address. So there's a whole bunch of ways to do this. I'm just gonna, because I know I'm going to be returning this, I'm going to return me dot first name and then a space and then me dot last name and then comma space and me dot email. So that's that. And then we need two constructors. So there's our first constructor is empty. So if you just say, give me a new customer, it'll give you that customer. But we also need a constructor that takes in 3 arguments. First name, last name, and email. And the first name is a string, last name is a string, email is a string. Sorry, I forgot those. Creating my constructor there. And what we do is just going to set me.firstName equals first name. So this me.firstName refers to this property, which is setting then, because this is on the left side of the equal sign, we're setting this value to whatever is in first name. And what's in first name is this. Okay, so I know we're using first name a lot here. We have first name, which is lowercase first, capital N, and then we have me.firstName, which refers to the property. Then we have m_, that's not a dot, that's an underscore, m_ first name, which refers to the module level property. So don't get those confused, but that's what's going on. I need to do the same thing with last name and then email. And the shortcut I use to take a line and copy and paste it to the next line is Control-D, as in duplicate. So instead of rewriting that, I just took this line, duplicated it, changed it, duplicated it, changed it. Okay, I think we're done with the customer class. So I'm going to save this. Step 3, when you're done with the customer class, which I think we are, use the Solution Explorer to review the members and jump to the code for one or more of the members. Do the same thing for validator class. So what they're saying is, here's our customer class. I can hit the arrow next to it. It's referring to public class customer. I can open this up and I can say, if I wanted to see what get display text is, I can double click on this and it takes me right there. Same thing with validator. You know, what is valid email? If I double click on this, it takes me right there. That is all of step 3, is just looking around there. Step 4, my class, we're skipping because we do not have the class diagram installed on our systems. So we're not going to worry about that. So we're on to step 5. Display the code for the add customer form. So I'm going to click on add customer, single click over here, hit F7 so I can see the code, and this is it. And what I need to do is declare a public variable named customer of type customer. So right up top here, I need public customer as customer. Again, you know, I wish the book would use separate names, because this is referring to the class and this is a variable. But following along with what the book wants. All right, turn the page. Step 6, and event handler for the click event of the save button. So we're still on the customer form, and to add the click event for the save button, you double click on the form on the right, double click on the save button, and then it gives you the sub procedure that handles the click event on the save button. Okay, this needs to validate the data on the form using the methods of the validator class, then creates a new customer object and closes the form if the data is valid. So again, if you're looking at what the book does for the product maintenance application, you can look at what they're doing on page 382. I do it a little differently. I'm going to start with if not validator, so I'm going to use the validator class, is present txt first name. Then, now remember, I believe if I look at validator is present, this takes in a text box. If it's empty, it shows a message and returns false. So this already handles showing the message. If the text field txt first name is empty, it shows the error message, returns false. So for here, all I need to do is exit sub. And underneath that is going to be, do what you have to do if everything is right. But we need more than just, the text first name being present. We have to do the same thing for the last name. Okay, and then we have to do the same thing for validator.isPresent txt email. So this is, if any of these things are empty, then exit the sub procedure. And actually, we need one more, that we're not just looking to see that the email field is present, but we're also making sure that it's an invalid email. So if any of these things are false, exit the sub procedure. Otherwise, we're ready to go. Again, if you look at the book on page 382, you can see the publisher does it slightly differently. They have a function called isValidData, which I would use if I needed to do this again. But because I only have this in one spot, I'm going to leave it like this right now. And I believe, yeah, the publisher is actually using if isValidData. What I'm saying is, if any of these things fail, exit the sub procedure. Now, do what you have to do if everything's right. We're going to set customer, which in this case, customer is referring to this customer here, this property. Customer equals new customer, and this IntelliSense is referring to our customer class that we wrote, and we can see there's two constructors. One takes no arguments, and the other one takes first name, last name, email. This is the one we want to use. So I'm going to do text first name dot text. I'm going to try to get rid of IntelliSense here, get it out of my way. Last name dot text and txt email dot text. So this is the constructor that we wrote that takes 3 strings. We're going to take the user's input, pass them through here, and then just simply close this window. And you'll see how we capture this in a moment. Okay. Where are we? We just finished step 6. And then step 7, add an event handler for the click event or the cancel button that simply closes the form. So I double clicked on form add customer, double click on cancel. That gives me an event handler for the click event of the cancel button. So all I'm going to do is close. Okay, on to Step 8 is display the code for the customer maintenance form. So I click on the customer maintenance form, I hit F7, here's the code for it. And declare a module level variable named customers as a list of customers. So this is module level because it is not inside a subprocedure or function anywhere. Then we want to add an event handler for this is step 9, event handler for the load event of the form. So in this middle drop down, I'm going to choose the form event, and I'm going to choose load. So this handles this form actually loading. And we need to use the getCustomers method of the customer DB class to load the customers list and then add the customers to the list box. Okay, so I'm going to say customers equals. Now this is referring to this module level variable of customers. I'm going to use customer DB dot and getCustomers. So this is going to return to me a list of customers. You don't need to worry about how that's working. This customer DB is like a pseudo database class that don't worry about how it works right now. We're going to get into databases in a couple chapters. And then what we need to do is for each customer as customer in customers. A lot of the same word there, but this is going to be a for each loop over the customers list. And what I'm pulling out is a single customer. I'm naming a customer here. I can name it whatever. Sometimes I like calling it like this customer so I know that this is the one I'm working on. So for each of this customer, and this is a customer type. So again, we're just reiterating that when I loop through my list of customers, I'm getting out a customer. And then to that, I need to add this customer to my list of customers. But remember, this customer is a customer type. It's a type of customer. So I'm going to use our getDisplayText function when I add that. So at this point, I think we should be able to run the form, and it will at least open up. There we go. So what it did was when the form loaded, it got the customers from the customer DB, put it in this customers variable. It looped through each of these, and it added it to the text box. Step 10, add an event handler for the click event of the add button. So I've got the click event for the add button. And what I need to do here, let me read this real quick. New instance of the new customer form and displays it as a dialog box. So dim new customer form as new FRM add customer. New customer form dot show dialog. If the customer object that's available from the customer variable in the new customer form isn't equal to nothing, wow, the event handler should add the customer to the list. Okay, so I'm going to say if new customer form dot customer is not nothing, then. So it says here, if the customer, I'm going to read the instructions and point to things as I do this. If the customer object that's available from the customer variable in new customer form is not equal to nothing, then call the save. Let's see, this event handler should add that customer to the list. So I'm going to customers.add new customer form dot customer. And this customer, if I go back to my new customer form, is this one. So that's what this is. So I take that, I add it to the list of customers. Then what I need to do is I need to save the database. So customer db dot save customers, and that takes a list of customers, so I'm going to pass customers to it. And then finally what I need to do is refresh the customers list box. So I need to basically take this for loop here. Well, the first thing I need to do is I need to lst customers dot, I have like a clear. I can do items dot clear, and then I can rerun it and then loop through the customers again. But copying and pasting code is bad. So I'm going to take this loop, I'm going to right click, quick actions and refactorings. I'm going to extract a method, and this method is going to be called refresh customers list. And refresh customers list should clear the box and then loop through the customers. And add it to the list. So now I can take this, and I'm going to put me dot here just so it's obvious what I'm calling. Now I can take this me dot refresh customers list and put it down here too. So let me clean this up a bit, get rid of all these extra blank lines that don't make sense. So in the very beginning, when we load the form, we get the customers from the database, and then I say refresh the customers list, which is taking the list and emptying it. There's nothing in there, so emptying it's pretty simple. And then looping through, in this case customers is this module level variable, looping through the list and adding them to the list box. Then when I save a customer, I add them to the customer's module level variable. I call the database and say save customers, give it that list of customers, and then I say again refresh customers list, and it does this again. So using a subroutine or a method for more effective code. All right, so we can probably run this. That worked great. I'm going to say add. I'm going to add Eric Nagel, and it's going to tell me emails required. I'm going to put nothing in there. Must be a valid email address. Nagel, yes, at buffalostate.edu. Hit save. It got added to the list. So what happened here, it didn't just get added to the list, because if I exit out and I start it again, it actually got added to my database. Okay, so that's how I know when I start. If I save something, close the application, start it up again, then I know that my customer db.save customers worked. All right, that was step 10. Step 11 is handling deleting a customer. So again, if you want to follow along how the book handles deleting a customer, let's see, they do it on page 381 for deleting a product. I do things a little bit differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see which customer do you have selected. And if your selected customer is equal to -1, this means that you didn't select someone. You don't have anyone selected, you just said delete customer. So I have no idea who you want to delete. I'm going to just show an error. So I just show an error and then get out of here. But otherwise, at this point, you've chosen a customer to delete. So which one of you, this is actually pulling out then, delete this customer is the customer that you've chosen to delete. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that they want to delete the customer. And actually, we can do that. We can do that actually right here. Well, since we've known you've chosen someone, we're going to do it here. So I'm going to say I'm going to ask the user, are you sure you want to delete this customer? And I don't want this scrolling, so I'm going to just start breaking this up onto multiple lines. Now remember that, so I'm doing a message box.show saying, are you sure you want to delete this customer? So I have to give the user something more than just an OK button. And I'm going to give them message box buttons dot yes, no. And let's make this, let's show an icon on this too. I'm going to add a question mark icon. So as long as I've chosen someone, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to come back, are you sure you want to delete this customer? So then I can say if are you sure is equal to the dialog result dot yes, then, so that's where I'm going to move this delete this customer, because that's the only time I need to actually do this. If the person said no, I don't need to actually create this new instance of a variable and such. And actually, I don't even need this. Well, I'll show you what. So we're going to do customers.remove, delete this customer, and then, so once they're removed from the customers list, but that's really the only time we're going to be using this. So I'm just going to take customers.selectedIndex and put that in here. There we go. So I'm removing from the customers list, I'm removing the selected customer. So I'm getting that customer out of the customers list, and then I'm removing them. So once I remove them, I need to save my database again. So customerdb.save. And then I need to refresh. What do I call that? I need to refresh this list box. How do I call it? Refresh. So if they said we want to delete this, I remove this selected customer, I save the customers list, and then I refresh the list box. So if I hit F5 right now, if I hit delete, it's going to give me an error because I didn't choose someone. I'm going to choose myself, hit delete. Are you sure you want to delete this? No. If I hit delete, are you sure you want to delete this? Yes. It not only deleted it from the box, but now, exit out of your application, run it one more time, and make sure that it deleted it from the database. If you still see it here, it did not delete it from the database. So in other words, your saved customers didn't run. Okay, that was step 11. And then step 12, an event handler for the exit. We've done this since like week 2. Make sure that does something. Save this, run it one more time. So, try this out with, adding with no data, adding with data that, is invalid, like an invalid email address. Add the user, exit out, run it again, select the user, delete. Do you want to delete them? No. Hit delete. Do you want to delete it? Yes. Okay, it went away. Hit exit again, hit F5, and they're actually out of the application. So there you go. That is all of 11-1.